So I thought I'd do something a little different here. I used to have a podcast, Prodigal Thought Podcast. Probably still like to do it at some point again. I always feel like I need a partner. It's kind of boring to talk by yourself. And I had a partner previously, but that kind of bantered with me on life issues, theological issues, and various things. But I wanted to try something, a video blog this morning, and might continue it. I wanted to talk about the elections. I know it's a big thing. There's a lot of people have very passionate perspectives on this. Personally, I've never seen anything quite like what we glimpse in America. When I lived in Belgium, watching it from afar, it kind of opened my eyes beyond what I had first really realized about how things get so politically charged in America. Um, I will say that I believe the kingdom of God and the gospel are very political, but not in the American way. I believe they are because in the gospel we are saying that Jesus is in charge. In the early Christian perspective, they would have been saying Jesus is Lord and Caesar is not. In our day, we would still be proclaiming, need to be proclaiming in the gospel and the good news of what God is doing in Jesus, that Jesus is now in charge of all things. And with that, he's making all things new, he's making all things right. It's also political, connected to the word polis, which means city. But a city can't be a city without people. And so the gospel is about people. It's about impacting and shaping people. And God is invested in people, really, truly in the polis, in the people. So, but here we are in America in particular, and with an election in 8 days now. And it's a lot different. But what I wanted to talk about is the option of not voting. There's a lot of belief. I see many of my conservative friends, especially, um, you know, they are. I've seen many that were very anti-Donald Trump, and all of a sudden they are very positive Donald Trump. One, because I think who they originally desired to be in the role uh, from a Republican side, they're no longer there. It's just Donald Trump standing there. And also, there's kind of the argument of the lesser of two evils. And we get into that argument a lot when we talk about ethics and choices that we make. Um, yeah, I understand that, I think, to some level, particularly also trying to argue that, hey, if we get Donald Trump in, we will ensure that we get at least one, if not two or three Supreme Court justices over the next few years voted in that are more of a conservative side of things. I don't really know if that's going to happen. Honestly, I don't particularly think Donald Trump is a good leader. I know people say we're not trying to kind of elect a president. Sorry, we're not trying to elect a pastor, but a president. And I've never heard anybody argue for electing a pastor to be the president. But typically, people who have committed sexual assault and perpetrated upon women, not just bragged about it. People want to say, oh, he just, it's dirty language, he's just being a guy, but they actual were acts that were perpetrated upon women. A person who has disdained people groups that are minorities, racially, people with disabilities, religiously, I think it's an extremely problematic side of things. On the other side, people look at Hillary Clinton, the challenges with the emails and the server, and what seems like a big cover-up scheme, lying and also various things when she was Secretary of State, particularly connected into the Benghazi situation. Obviously, from a conservative side, they struggle with the idea of supporting Planned Parenthood with its abortion rate, particularly if it would be using tax dollars to support Planned Parenthood. So there's both sides of the things. I particularly don't think any third party option is great. At least my little bit of looking in and watching with Gary Johnson, I just don't think he's going to be a good political leader on a world platform. Jill Stein, I don't know as much. I feel a little bit strongly seeing her connected somewhat with some perspectives of Bernie Sanders. I like some of the perspectives of Bernie Sanders. And so they've got this new guy, Evan McMullin, out of Utah. Or he's doing well in Utah if he's not out of Utah. But what I want to say and bring forth is the option of not voting. And I know the big argument, especially from my conservative friends, if you don't vote, it's a vote for Hillary. And what I find problematic about this is the scare tactics or the fear tactics of pushing people somewhat, some people not so much, some people very much so, power maneuvering into making people afraid. You'll get Hillary. Honestly, I personally don't believe Hillary as big a problem as Donald Trump. However, at this point, with 8 days left, I have no plans to vote. And more than anything, there's a couple of reasons why I just thought I'd share. First of all, say it is an option. And people don't believe it's an option. Christians who don't believe it's an option, I struggle with, because I think there's a lot of people who put their faith in the political scheme of America over and above what Jesus the King can do. I don't want to sound overly spiritual, but I just realized I don't put my eggs in the basket of Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Libertarians, Green Party, or anything in America. And I think we need to realize it's an okay option. If we do actually not believe that there is a good candidate out there, that it's okay. There are some people who don't vote because they completely remove themselves from the political scheme. We have to give space for that. There are Christian people that don't get involved in that. They believe they've got another call. I will say, ultimately, the church is to be an alternative politic. The world should look at the church and see something of the rule of God in the community of God's people, and what it means like for Jesus to be in charge. And I don't think the world sees that. I don't think the American world sees that. They see cultural wars. They see politically charged stuff. They see particular Christian leaders getting in the bed, if you want to use that terminology, with these leaders from different political sides. And I think we need a better option, a politic that looks like Jesus and what we see of Jesus in the Gospels and what we see in the New Testament. And until we provide that, it really doesn't matter, I think, ultimately think how we vote, because we've got to live this out together. I think also part of me is one of the things I lament and trying to think about what it means to be an alternative community that shows what it means for Jesus to be in charge, is that politics is a huge money-making business machine. And I think we've reached now amongst all, not just Trump and Clinton, but all of the candidates together. Of course, those two are the largest money people in this, but we've reached the $2 billion mark. That is a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And it's become that, and for that I lament the machine that it's become, and that it's not actually really about people. And for the church, it's not, there's a problem on many levels that at least the alternative community and politics where we should be living and building in Jesus, it's a far cry from the opportunity. Now, hey, I'm okay. Go vote. I am not saying don't vote. I'm not even saying don't vote for either of the main candidates or any third party candidate. But I want to really put out there, honestly, not voting is an option. There's reasons. It's not a super spiritual option. There are people who love Jesus, follow Jesus, that will vote in all kinds of ways, and they have their reasons. I would ask that we not stamp Bible verses on everything that we do and why we choose, per se, but I just wanted to put out there the reality that not voting is okay. And I am not going to be led by fear or scare of who might be in charge and what that might look. Even me believing that Donald Trump would be the kind of greater evil, not the lesser of evil, but the greater evil to bring in if he is elected president, then I'm not afraid, I'm not scared, I don't think we need to be. So just putting that out there that the option to not vote is an okay option. And it doesn't mean you don't care, it doesn't mean you're completely removing yourself from society, it's just that it's an okay option. And I hope you'll take this to heart and think through it, and I do pray good things will come out of November 8th and following, as we trust Jesus and look to Him to help us build what He desires to be built.